Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 328 of Just the Zoo of Us. This week, I am joined by the creator and bird parent behind Apollo and Friends for a look into life alongside the world-famous African gray parrot. You may have seen their videos on social media showing off Apollo's incredibly impressive vocabulary, answering questions, and even speaking in full sentences, which have earned the bird a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records in 2025, on top of all the pistachios, of course. We discuss animal cognition and what makes parrots such great models for animal intelligence, the brain soup machine, bird proofing a home, parrots video calling each other, and so much more. Also, there are a couple of references to specific scientific studies during the episode, and those will be linked in the episode description. Just the Zoo of Us presents Apollo, the African gray parrot, with Dalton Mason. Hey there, everybody. It's Ellen Weatherford with Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast. I am beyond excited, so hyped, because this week we have a brand new friend that we're talking to, someone you may have seen. You may have heard his voice. You may have seen him and his family members. If your algorithm looks anything like mine, they might be all over your social media feeds and stuff. We have Dalton Mason, the producer behind Apollo the Parrot. Say hi, Dalton.
Hello.
Dalton, I'm so happy to talk to you because I have watched so many of your videos with Apollo, the African gray parrot. You guys are so charming and delightful together. I feel like it's cool to see someone have like great chemistry with a bird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, birds are, they're so social, but they're not mammals. So it's like a lot of the body language is not as intuitive as it is with like a cat or a dog,
right?
Especially. Because we've seen a lot of people interact with Apollo, especially Eckerd students that come. And just some people really get birds, sort of, and some people it's very hard to read.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
How did you end up on this path? How did your journey intersect with Apollo's? How did y'all meet?
There's two parts to that, but as far as the second part, which would be meeting Apollo, it was 2020 during coronavirus and everything, and we're going to our local pet store to get some crickets for the leopard gecko I had since I was a kid, and Apollo was in there for a very, very, very low price for an 8-month-old gray because he had been bought a couple months younger by someone and then surrendered to the pet store, and then they just were trying to get him to someone else real quick, so they just sold him at a discount. But we saw him and decided to buy him pretty much on the spot.
Wow. Did you already have it in your mind that you wanted a parrot at all, or was this kind of like an impulse decision?
I mean, it was an impulsive decision, but more like an impulsive gamble. Like, the entire Apollo and Friends concept was already in my mind. Like, I had that as like a floating concept along with many others that were like, this is totally possible if someone just did it, because of what Alex, the African gray, and Dr. Pepperberg had already proven, at least to my viewing, seeing YouTube documentaries and everything like that. One of the funny things is I had not fully read the Alex and Me book until after getting Apollo.
Oh.
Then I read it like twice. But I had watched every video and some of the long talks Dr. Pepperberg has given that are on YouTube about the subject. But then when it was 2020, me and Tori were at the right age, and Apollo was there for a steep discount, and the stimulus check had hit not that long ago. I decided to go for it. But the entire idea was essentially there. But the idea is really pretty simple, which is that African grays particularly, along with a lot of other parrots, but African grays are just the proven best confluence of abilities to use human speech to whatever ability they're able to, which we really don't know, because Alex was really just a little peek into what they're capable of. That's what I thought. And that raising an African gray, using some of Dr. Pepperberg's methods in a dynamic home environment where you have another human as well, so that you can model social behaviors that you want, which was a key part of why the model rival technique works so well, is you would have essentially to put it bluntly and simply, is you would have like the smartest, most speech capable animal of anyone. And, you know, with the era of social media and those tools available to you, you would be able to self-fund it and then do whatever with it from there. You essentially create a self-sustaining engine outside of academia.
Yeah, because a lot of the work that you have done, not just the content creation side of it, but the actual training and learning how to communicate and, like, I guess parenting of the bird.
Yeah, you have to take that seriously. You can't just get a bird and be like, oh, I'm going to have the best bird. Like, that's not. But I will say something kind of crazy is, like, I don't obviously know exactly how much training Dr. Pepperberg and Alex did, but I would estimate we've done probably like at most 25% of the amount of training that they did with Alex. So much more of the time is almost just Apollo integrating it. Like, we notice, like, when we're introducing a new concept that he already kind of knows in a lot of ways, can't verbalize or whatever, he only needs in a single session, like, a little bit of model rival with me and Tori modeling it. And then he just needs to, like, sit on that for like a couple days with occasional refreshers. And the biggest, hardest part is actually making the words, like making them come out right. Like, think of like a human, especially a young child that has like speech issues, especially if they're like somehow anatomically related, where they have to put in a lot more effort and then they can overcome that. It's almost like, it seems like the parrots using human speech with their syrinx, like their equivalent of the voice box, is like that, but much more extreme. It's taken years for some things for Apollo to be able to say them. And I mean say them perfectly, because that's one of the biggest differences is we wait until he can say it perfectly in most cases. Unless we really truly believe that he's like hit a wall, like anatomically. It's like he just can't do that noise or that sequence of noises.
Are there any like phonemes or something, like sounds that you feel like he's just not capable of making?
I'm not confident enough in any of them at this stage, especially since like some of the things that we thought were like, okay, maybe he can't do this. It's like, no, I can do it. But it just took me 2 years of working on it on and off, because he'll like work on something really hard, maybe up to a couple weeks at a time. And then if he doesn't get it, even if it improves, he'll just kind of put it on ice. You won't hear it for a while. Then he'll do something else and then he'll bring it back. Like, the frustration is definitely a big part of it.
Like his frustration?
Yeah. Because imagine, you know, you're trying to say something, you've understood it forever, you know you understand it, the people know you understand it, but it's like, I need to make this noise, I've got like half of it, I've almost got it. Oh, that noise I need is in this other word I say, well, I'm just going to just destroy that word for the time being to learn the word I'm trying to, and then I'll have to relearn the other word. Like, that happens all the time. For whatever reason, the colors have been just the most brutalized by that.
Really?
There'll be like, white was gone for over a year, although half that time he would say it in practice, but when you ask him and there's a pistachio on the line, he can't get it out.
It's performance anxiety. Listen, we all get it.
Yeah, that's the final stage. I like to say there's 3 stages of being able to say something that we've seen with him. And the first one is like being able to say it while he's practicing, while there's no consequence, there's nothing on the line, etc. That's the easiest one.
Low stakes.
Yeah. And then there's the middle one where he's like engaged in an interaction or in a context where it's like, it's context appropriate. He wasn't asked, or maybe he was asked, but there's no snack involved. But usually it's just the appropriate context and he'll say it. And sometimes he'll almost seem like surprised himself. He'll like say it in the context and he'll be like, oh, I did it. And then the third, which is by far the hardest, is he knows he's going to earn a snack or not earn a snack based on whether he does it and then being asked and being able to say it. That's the hardest part.
It reminds me a lot of learning to play a musical instrument.
Yes.
You know, like learning to play piano.
That's a very good analogy.
Like, you can do it by yourself, and I have a digital piano too, so I like to put on the headphones so nobody else can hear me. So nobody can hear how badly I mess it up every time, right? So like, and the low stakes, you can kind of take it at your own pace, do it how you're comfortable, but then like that final hurdle of playing for an audience is like all of a sudden you're nervous and you start messing up. And
I think there's another layer to that analogy that's really good too, which is human speech. You know, for humans, that's not intentionally, but it's just as a natural emergent nature of, you know, we develop those noises and communications based on our anatomy with each other over incomprehensible amounts of time. So it's intuitive to your anatomy, but an instrument is not. It's as intuitive as we've been able to make it. You use your fingers, your mouth, whatever, it varies by the instrument, but it's much less intuitive than like learning to talk,
right,
or probably learning to sing if you're like a natural, because a lot of singing comes down to anatomy too, or a big portion of it. Some people are just really good at it at a baseline. But I think parrots learning how to use human speech with their anatomy is a lot more like, humans learning an instrument. And it's like, you can become amazing and like it becomes an extension of yourself. But like, making a piano an extension of yourself is a lot harder than just learning how to talk.
I also, because you were mentioning like struggling to make certain sounds just because of like anatomical challenges, I have a tongue tie. Like my frenulum that connects my tongue to the bottom of my mouth is like too far forward, and I physically cannot roll my R's. I know that everyone says, oh, just practice, you can do it. But I have that like tongue tie.
There's an anatomical barrier.
Yeah, like anatomically, I cannot produce that sound, which I know is like an important sound to make in a lot of languages, which I know like you can pretty much get by. Even if you have a tongue tie, you can get by like speaking Spanish or something. Contextually, people will be able to figure out what you're doing. But I also understand that it must be very frustrating for him, like you said. Like I understand the output. Like I know what needs to come out of me, but I can't make it come out.
Yeah, the understanding is way easier. And I think that's kind of just naturally, I think that kind of is how kids are too. It's like they'll understand something, especially very young when language is coming into play. It's like they'll understand something, but being able to translate that understanding into language is harder than just understanding the thing. And I notice people in the comments, just comments over time, I definitely noticed that a common perspective frame is to assume like, oh, the understanding is what's lacking in the bird. It's not the speech, like being able to make the noises. That's like assumed as if that's like easy.
Oh, like that's the easy part.
But that's actually the hardest part.
I think because people expect parrots to mimic sounds, right? So
yeah,
the expectation is that the mimicry is the part that comes naturally to the parrot, but that the cognition and the mental understanding is the hurdle. But I think that's just assuming based on what we can see, what output we can see, and maybe underselling how much is happening under the hood.
It's still a remaining frame too from just the last pre-2016, say, because in 2016 there was like a landmark study where they took a machine that basically you take a brain, turns it into soup, and then tells you how many cells are in it.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much exactly. They invented it in like 2008 or something, which is interesting because they didn't bother to really test the birds for like 8 years.
Oh, the brain soupifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally made a brain soupifier.
The name of it is really funny. It sounds fake. It's like some isotropic fractionator or
That's
something.
technobabble. That's from Star Trek, actually.
They found that the bird classes that you would think of as the most intelligent, like corvids, the parrots, and like songbirds that are closely related to parrots, the amount of cells in their brain, like the density of cells is like 2 times or more than mammals. Like it's essentially like a smartphone versus a desktop computer. Like mammals are very inefficient. It's just like, oh, just slap on more muscle. But birds for so long have had essentially just the most brutal weight saving pressure just as a constant because of flight. It's like every bit of weight you cut, every bit of efficiency you gain is like disproportionately advantageous. It's like every bit of weight that you put on, you have to be able to take up in the air, maneuver, etc. So they ended up with hyper dense, compacted brains, which accounts for why, before you understand that, if you assume like, yeah, it has a tiny brain, like there's no way it's as smart as a chimp. It's just not possible. But once you account for that among a few other things, but that's the biggest difference. It's like, no, that is actually as smart or smarter than like a great ape.
There's optimized.
Yeah. If you scaled it up to our size, they would be way smarter than us.
And also something that we talk about on the show sometimes is that like we also don't always know how to access that understanding and that knowledge. Like we don't know how to ask them what's going on in their head, and they don't communicate in the same ways that we do. So if we're just going off of behavior and we're just going off of what the animal is doing in a way that we understand, we're missing a lot.
And that applies across the entire animal kingdom, pretty much. Whales are one of the next best examples. We don't know what's going on. Once we've fully decoded their communication system, or I would just say their language, and in such a way we can understand what they're saying, and we could also, with whatever technology, reproduce and say hello to them or something. Then we can start making claims about what they're able to do, but it's like they're a black box in many ways. It's just we don't know. But birds are even crazier because they're so far separated from mammals. Their brain is a completely different setup. That was the other half of birds just have to be stupid. They don't even have a prefrontal cortex. What we know is why we're able to do the things we're able to do as humans, and also the other very intelligent mammals have the same sort of basic structure. But birds got there in a totally different type of way. There's no folds. It's not a hyperfolded brain. It's just super compressed, dense cells, which also leads to a lot faster processing because the cells to communicate with each other are traveling half the distance. So they process visual information and stuff a lot faster as well, which makes sense for flight too. Split-second decision and you're dead or you're not. You're not just running into a tree and it hurts. It's you're running into a tree and that's it.
You sustain an injury to those bones or something like that, that's it. You're cooked. It's over.
Your bones are all very hollowed out. With predatory birds change the dynamic, but that's an interesting thing as well. Predatory birds are very dumb compared to the generalist birds like corvids and parrots and such. Their eyesight is way better. Birds already have fantastic eyesight. They gave up a lot of taste and smell for that. They don't really have much there. But the predatory birds have just completely maxed out eyesight and just the super strong legs and bones down there for, combat purposes, basically.
The himbo birds.
Yeah, the generalist birds really developed the intelligence up to and pretty much along with mammals until humans hit whatever breakaway point where, we just take over the whole planet.
But listen, if they had thumbs, it would be over for us, I think.
They kind of do. They're so small. But the parrots, because they have the different foot layout, they have the two opposing feet or fingers, and they're able to grab and manipulate things. And they turn their beak into essentially another hand. They're a tripedal sort of thing, basically, when you take out the wings, because the wings are only good for one thing. Their legs double as feet, hands, all of that, and their beak doubles as a hand, and they use it for climbing and everything, which has led to, even more so than corvids, a very interesting development, because they've for a long time been manipulating things close. Corvids can't really do that.
That actually leads us really, really well into the first category that we rate animals on, which is this is anyone's first time listening to this podcast. This is our gimmick. This is our shtick, where we rate animals out of 10 in different categories. And the first one is effectiveness, just physical adaptations, things that are built into the animal's body or ways that they've specialized or adapted their body into doing the things that they're trying to do, whether that's find food, not become food themselves, things like that. So, Dalton, what do you give the African gray parrot out of 10 for effectiveness?
I can give it a little lower than 10 there. I'd give them maybe an 8.
Still good. That's a passing score.
Yeah. They didn't break out of Africa. So they, corvids achieved almost world domination. So you have to hand it to them there.
As someone who lives in basically the crow capital of the world, I'm just outside of Seattle, which is where a lot of those crow experiments were up at the University of Washington in Seattle. The experiments where they would put on masks and basically rage bait crows and see if they would stay mad at them decades later. And they did.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah. A lot of those experiments involving basically just griefing crows, a lot of those came out of Seattle because we are the crow scene up here is wild. So when you are working with a parrot, I have had the pleasure of being up close and personal with an African gray parrot before. It's a gorgeous bird, but we'll talk about that in aesthetics. I am so nervous to handle parrots because of how sort of sharp the beak is. I'm always a little bit on edge working with parrots. I've held conures, but with African gray parrots, I get nervous because of how big and powerful and sharp the beak is. Is that something that ever makes you nervous, or you just know Apollo well enough that it doesn't psych you out?
I just kind of accept that you can get bit pretty bad. But I mean, with Apollo, I'm essentially never nervous per se because I know him so well. But yeah, that goes for every large parrot. Essentially, they can bite pretty hard.
I learned recently, because I actually learned this about flamingos, but I'm pretty sure it goes for parrots as well, that it is very unusual for, in birds, the top part of the beak to be the hinged part, like that's the part that moves away from the skull. Usually in birds, it's the bottom part of the beak that is hinged that moves and the top stays still. But that in parrots, it's the opposite, which I feel like in the videos of Apollo, you can see this because when he like reaches for something, you can see that the top part of the beak is the one that's like reaching out. Like you mentioned, like another limb.
I think they have hinges on both, basically, which is part of why the parrot beak is just so useful. They can use it for so many things. Yeah, the top beak, you can see that. I don't think they can do as much with it as the bottom beak, but it does work like that. You're right.
It's cool to see.
Yeah, when they fully extend it.
Yeah, it's like they got like a go-go gadget beak that they can just kind of zoop out. And then when you see them like crawling up like, limbs or branches or stuff like that, you can see them kind of like use it. It almost reminds me of like if you've ever like climbed up the stairs and you kind of use your hands a little bit when you're running up the stairs.
Yeah, essentially they have, they're like tripedal. That's part of why they can adapt to living in a home so much better than like corvids as well. Because like you can keep a corvid in captivity, but like if you clipped a corvid in captivity, which it's traumatizing for any bird to be clipped, but like it doesn't work. But with parrots, it's possible because they are stable and able to get around and climb even without much or any flight. But corvids and most birds need flight because their feet can kind of grip, but they can like stabilize themselves on something, but they can't use them like hands like the parrots can.
Okay, so you keep Apollo in your home. And as someone who has had small children who don't fly, my children are earthbound, stuck on the ground, and also not that tall. So not a lot of vertical action happening from the small children. And even then, we had to really do a lot of baby proofing and toddler proofing, making sure that they weren't going to grab things they weren't supposed to grab, knock things over, hurt themselves. Is that something that you have had to do with the parrot?
Yes, not terribly extreme on the actual like house modification or chain, like different practices side. Like we have like a mosquito net separating the kitchen from the rest of the house so we can kind of easily keep them out of there without having a physical door. And we're conscious about the layout and where things are, but not to that extreme of a degree because they're monitored so often. But where one of the big sets of changes you have to make is like in the cleaning and fragrances and candles, like that sort of ceiling fans, like all sorts of stuff like that have to be almost eliminated. And that's where a lot of the much more significant changes come from. But you also have to be very careful about like open bodies of water, like leaving the toilet seat up if that room is open is like, that's one of the most common deaths for captive birds, especially very small ones, because they'll drown if they fall in there. So like stuff like that you have to be very conscious of. And to prune a lot of those like very possible but low probability situations, Teflon's a good example. Like Teflon will essentially instantly kill a bird if it gets aerosolized and they get almost any in their lungs or their air sacs. They don't have lungs technically, because that's another part of the efficiency. They're so hyper efficient at breathing air, especially you got to be up high in the sky. So like toxins in the environment transfer into them much more efficiently than in us. But like you can use Teflon, have a parrot, never have an issue, because if it doesn't get too hot, then nothing happens. But if it gets over a certain temperature once, so you should just get rid of Teflon products if you have parrots.
Yeah, might as well, right?
Yeah, because
you don't want to roll those dice every time.
There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like a lot of people wouldn't even know. Or like avocados, like avocado oil, there's a toxin in it that if they have any of it, a bird is just done. Like I think it sends them into liver failure among some other things.
I had never heard that before in my life. I had no idea.
You got to be aware of that. It's stuff like that that you really have to be careful of.
Birds are like such a glass cannon.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things that you have to research before getting a bird.
Another thing that I urge people to research before getting parrots, not just African gray parrots, but parrots especially, is their lifespan.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very long-term commitment for this bird. Was that something that you had to take into consideration when committing to Apollo?
Yeah. I was, we were aware of what we were getting into. I knew enough about parrots to know that was an effect, and we were 22 or 23, so... And
you said he was, 8 months old?
Yeah, he was 8 months.
So he was just a baby.
Yeah, he was more or less a baby at that point.
It's kind of sweet, though, that you get to like grow up together. You know, I know in your early 20s, you're not like a baby or anything like that. I mean, I'm 30, so like early 20s seems like a baby to me. But I don't know. It's nice that you kind of get to like grow up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like see him really come into his own.
Yeah. It's to watch the whole process is incredible. This might not be exactly word for word, but there's a quote I remember from Pepperberg about Alex where he'd do something or demonstrate, especially when he like broke a new thing out or like he did a new thing. She said like it was like a magical moment because it's just you and the bird and you're like the only one that knows that has happened in that moment. And for a bit, you know, until somehow it gets shown outside of that. And I definitely understand what she meant because there's been so many times where Apollo has done things and it's been like, oh, wow. And recently he's been starting to be able to answer like a more complex question, like asking what is this made of and what's it called? And then with like metal wrench or glass bowl. And that's been really like that kind of has blown us away.
Like he's combining concepts together to give like a descriptor, like adjective noun.
Yeah, like essentially like a complex or a two-part answer instead of always one part.
Hey there, y'all. It's time for a quick break to hear from our friends on the Max Fun Network. We will be right back with more, so stay with us.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mark Gagliardi, and I host We Got This with Mark and Hal on the Maximum Fun Network. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
My name is Jessie, and I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hi, Jessie from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jessie, you are our Maximum Fun Member of the Month.
I'm so delighted to hear that I'm the Member of the Month. Thank you.
Is there a first episode that you remember?
The pretzel shape episode.
Yeah.
That's pretty classic.
Both of us just killed off each other's answers and went with pretzel rod, which is clearly not the best.
No, that is a terrible pretzel.
As our Member of the Month, you have a parking spot at Maximum Fun headquarters, as well as a $25 gift card to the Maximum Fun store. We say it at the end of the episode, we wouldn't do it without you and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Become a Max Fun member now at MaximumFun.org/join.
Hello?
Hello, I'm calling on behalf of the Beef and Dairy Network podcast.
No, I'm sorry. No sales calls. Goodbye.
It's a multi-award-winning podcast featuring guests such as Ted Danson, Nick Offerman, Josie Long.
I don't know what a Josie Long is, and anyway, I'm about to take my mother into town to see Phantom of the Opera at last. You are wasting my time, and even worse, my mother's time. She only has so much time left. She's 98 years old. She's only expected to live for another 20 or 30 years. Mother, get your shoes on. Yes, the orthopedic ones. I don't want to have to carry you home again, do I?
Right, well, if you were looking for a podcast...
Mother, you're not wearing that, are you? It's very revealing, Mother. This is a musical theatre, not a Parisian bordello.
Simply go to MaximumFun.org.
I'm reaching for my Samsung Galaxy 4 as we speak. Mother! Mother, not that hat!
That is a great segue into the next category that we rate animals on, which is ingenuity, behaviors, ways that the animal is navigating their world and solving problems that they face. I feel like we've already laid the groundwork for this category, and anyone who I think has ever even heard of African gray parrots probably knows this is going to be kind of where a parrot in general, I think, is going to shine. But as the person with the hands-on experience, what are you giving African gray parrots out of 10 for ingenuity?
I got to give him a 10 on that.
I mean, can we go to 20? I am really fascinated by how you add on things like over time. Like once he's really like got a concept down and has really like rehearsed something and understands it, you start to kind of like throw curveballs at him a little bit. Like you might give him like multiple things of the same color and be like, which one? What is the thought process like when you're like, okay, I'm going to ask Apollo this set of questions? Like, what does that look like on your end?
A lot of the time, especially since we kind of have Alex and Dr. Pepperberg's whole life work as at least a roughly expected roadmap for certain things, we kind of, for the most part, throw a bunch of stuff at Apollo and in the environment, and then just whatever course he sort of just focuses on and what he wants to do, we work on that. Just because we figure like the speed of things he learns will be a lot faster over time if we just let him more or less pick. And we have a lot more of the freedom to do that than Dr. Pepperberg did, especially. So it's really kind of, we just throw things at him and see what works, what doesn't, what he's ready to. Like with the 2-part answers, like that's something we had always kind of expected would eventually happen. But he started in his talking practice a while ago, maybe even like a year ago now. He started combining those things like glass bowl or like saying them together. And then it kind of accelerated and really accelerated the last like 2 or so months. So I just decided, all right, I'll try and ask him. And starting with purple block, which is the combination that he's been saying the most for the last like week or two. So I started with that one and then used other stuff because I want to like start on a high, confidence note. If he like fails the first one, he might just be like, oh no, screw this.
Oh yeah, true.
And then he just kind of did it really well. I was like, oh wow, he's already above random on this. So now we're working on that. And similar thing for the arrays, like asking him about multiple things at a time, like presenting him things, especially on a tray. Like that was something we very much expected. It was just kind of a question of when, because that was, Alex did that so thoroughly. Like that's one of the main frames that we had going in that's so different, is that I didn't take Alex as like possibly a magical example. Like it could just be a special irreplicable relationship between Dr. Pepperberg and Alex. Alex could be like a unique, just, genius bird, because those are very common and lingering critiques of what Alex proved. But I just went and like, this is very clearly like a species baseline under adverse conditions. Like he did not have anywhere near ideal conditions. And that's not at all Dr. Pepperberg's fault, because a lot of people will blame her for that, but it's really the institutional apparatus.
It's an academic setting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really would like to see the alternate universe too, if like you take Dr. Pepperberg's life work and you just had a man there too, because that was a big aspect of it as well, is that she was a woman doing this. And then the whole history of animal cognition is a whole rabbit hole that I'll eventually try and explain, but that has a lot of messes and wrong turns and spectacles that were not what they said they were. And then the well is very poisoned.
Are you meaning that like her work wasn't taken seriously because it was a woman involved?
Yeah, especially if you read her book or like look at especially the first like 2 decades in particular, a lot of the grant denials and pushback and opposition, like that was a central aspect of it, was that she was projecting love onto the thing. And it's like that's one of my biggest critiques of it, is just of the institutional, like trying to apply like scientific objectivity and like methodology rules that are like totally reasonable. Like you would be insane to say that it's unreasonable for something like chemistry, or mathematics. But when you're talking about like social development of an animal that we don't, we have no idea what they're really capable of. We haven't decoded the language they're using in the wild. Like, what are they saying to each other? What information's being conveyed? We don't know.
Yeah.
And we know with humans, like take a human child or infant, it's like the relationship, the social relationship is essential. Like if you're like, oh, well, your social relationship is contaminating our assessment of the intelligence of the child. Like that would be like, that's an insane thing to say.
It's like, no, that's what we're looking for, the social relationship. That's what we're supposed to be doing here.
And you can, like, the testing method can be, and we've done this with Apollo going to Eckerd, it's not as extreme as some of the methodology Dr. Pepperberg used testing Alex, which just goes to show, like, he clearly was able to do the things. But Apollo has no problem going to the school, going to the separate location, and then going into the little, like, sterile room and being asked by a separate person. Like, he's totally chill with that. And that gives you can get an objective, reasonably objective for the scenario, like assessment of the animal. Like the home life and the relationship with the researcher and the trainer, like I really just don't understand where the critique of that came, especially how strong it was back in the day when behaviorists and stuff were the dominant force.
Did you have any sort of academic or like background with birds, working with animals? Was this just kind of like a thing you wanted to do?
No academic background at all, although a lot of in the form of video media and reading. Like I've, been on the internet for the past 15, 20 years, just learning all number of things. So I guess you could call me, obviously I'm not within academia, but like I have a wide-ranging knowledge that's not very deep on a lot of subjects. But animals and animal intelligence, language, cognition was one of the things I was always, since I was a little kid, like very fascinated by, and at the very least had watched all the YouTube videos on it. And Dr. Pepperberg and Alex are, essentially like two mythic heroes in that field. So you can't look at animal language cognition without finding that story. And I came to all those conclusions and kind of just realized like, oh, this is like very clearly indicative of species level baseline potential under very adverse conditions. So you can reproduce this, not easily. Easily is the wrong word entirely. Simply.
Yeah, because you guys have been putting a lot of work in.
Yeah, it's work and long-term duration, which is another problem. You know, academia works on like the grant cycles and all that. It's like, all right, well, we need 5 to 7 years of stability and effort before we start getting like impressive results. Then the results from there for the next decade just blow everything away. But one of that critique that like Alex's n=1, you know, there's no other examples. It's like, it's so impossibly hard to get. And that's across the entire field of animal cognition. Like, you know, Coco is one of the spectacles that partly poisoned the well very bad, but like Washoe, Kanzi is the most impressive, which he died relatively recently. But like just getting to the point of being able to have the animal do these things is so difficult. And it's almost just like what it takes to do that is like just not compatible with how the institutions are set up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, we just recently did an episode on cleaner wrasses, the little reef fish that go up into, you know, groupers and moray eels and stuff and like clean the bigger predatory fish. And there was a study just within the last few years, I want to say it was in the 2020s, showing that they passed the mirror test, which was incredibly surprising considering that these are very tiny little fish. And they could also do things like recognize their own face. They could like remember it for later. So like later you'd show them their own face again and they remembered it was them. Or if you changed something about them, they knew something was wrong. They would even like try to hide things from each other and try to like deceive each other in some ways. And like all these really cognitively sophisticated things that they were doing that we didn't know to look for, but it made a lot of sense with their lifestyle in the wild, because in the wild, they have to do things like recognize individual faces because they would have client fish that they needed to have good relationships with, and they needed to remember each other because they needed to remember like that's not a good client, or I cheated that client last time, I need to be nice to them this time. So like the certain skills that help them in their lifestyle in the wild end up also being the skills that will help you pass the mirror test, which is just the metric by which we happen to check for that stuff. And so with the parrots, they happen to have the same skills that we are able to like, we have metrics for studying them. Like you can learn words, you can learn new things, like you can communicate with us and stuff. And so what I wonder is like, I don't know how much is known about what they're doing in the wild, but like, I'm wondering what circumstances are they facing in the wild that have given them this like extremely sophisticated processing, like language processing abilities?
I think it's most likely probably the simple answer realistically, which is just convergent evolution. You see it in whales and a bunch of other mammals as well. It's just like the benefit of social cooperation, names for each other. Yeah. That's a constant pressure. Like it's like it's a universal pressure, you know? So it would make sense all these different species, including ones that are so far diverged from mammals, they have a totally different like brain architecture, are somewhere along that same ascending path. You know, humans just hit the point where, we tame fire. We're able to externalize and store information and like writing and you just hit the stratosphere. But the path that got us there, we were talking to each other long, long before we built civilization. So somewhere along that path, it seems more likely than not, if you take a Darwinian like worldview base, like that's your base assumption about the world, it makes sense that the different capable species would convergently evolve that to some degree. The insane part is like where the African gray is just like, I would go so far as to say just a miracle species, where it's the convergence. They're not the smartest other animal. They're not the most widespread, etc., but they are among the smartest of the avians, like the different birds. They're in the top category on that. And then they have the social hierarchy, the social systems, all that. They have all the benefits of the parrots with the beak and the tripedalism and all of that. But the crazy part is they combine that with the ability to use our noises that we use for our language to a very significant degree. We don't even know how good they can get at it, because Apollo has been doing a lot better on pronunciations across the board than Alex simply because we can wait 2 years. You know, Dr. Pepperberg, as soon as he's able to say something usable for a study, like for research, that's it. Like, we're using that. He's not going to improve on it. He has no reason to improve. Like, this whole thing collapses if we don't get funding next year.
Right.
So that compounds over time. I have a post on that, but one of the big critiques of Pepperberg as well is that Griffin does not talk very well at all compared to Alex. And that's largely because of that compounding effect, especially because, you know, Alex has humans as examples, and then he still has the degraded speech because they have to take it as soon as it's viable. But Griffin now comes in, and he doesn't just have humans, he has the much more relevant other African gray with degraded speech as an example. So it degrades over time, all because of this institutional pressure and the conditions in the very beginning. And we're still, like, Dr. Pepperberg is still stuck with that today because Griffin is still alive. He's proved amazing things, but not verbally for the most part. And that's the cascading effect. But anyways, like, African grays, more than any other parrot, essentially, well more than the crows, because the ravens are, I'm certain, most likely more intelligent than African grays to at least some notable degree. But their anatomy, they don't talk very well at all. They can talk a little bit, but just nothing compares to African grays are the confluence of all the factors that I think makes them essentially like the Rosetta species.
Oh, that's such a good term. Yeah, that's perfect.
Like, they can act as ambassadors for all the other species that are not human because they're the only ones that are able to a significant degree naturally use our linguistic interface, our software. Because if you think about it, like, culture, language, etc. is like an external software that we install on every human. Like, when you have a child and a baby, you're essentially installing the human software all the way from the whole language down to your personal, like, family unit social dynamic software, which is where you get the wider variants.
And then you got to download the updates every month. There's patches all the time.
But the African grays were able to install the software, and they're able to use it back to us, to what Alex proved under conditions that should just be beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, how Dr. Pepperberg conducted her methodology, like, she's literally a saint. Like, I could not have done what she did within the institution. I would have crashed out, like, before the 90s. I would have crashed out.
But science is built on the backs of giants.
That's how it works. Like, I wouldn't have the example, like, Apollo and Friends doesn't exist without Dr. Pepperberg and Alex.
But I feel like also because of that, like, foundation that they were able to set. Now, like you mentioned, like, since you're not working within the confines of academia that really worked against them in a lot of ways, you have the opportunity to then, like, take it even further and, like, do things they weren't able to do. And like you said, now you're, you know, working with Eckerd. Is it Eckerd College or Eckerd University? Is it
Eckerd College?
Eckerd College. Now you're able to work with them. So now you're able to even advance that understanding even further.
Yeah, it's like we're now able to work with academia, but the funding, the environment, the control, it's completely outside of that.
Yeah. In the time that you have been working with Apollo and living alongside Apollo, I want to know what things feel like special about Apollo. Like, does he have certain things that he really likes, like certain preferences, or certain things he's not a fan of? Like, what are the sort of little quirks about Apollo?
There are all sorts of, like, obviously he loves pistachios.
Same, honestly.
He prefers to have them in the shell. He always prefers to, like, have something that's in a shell, and then he unshells it himself.
We love a snacktivity. Who doesn't love that?
One of the funnier things is he loves pine nuts now. He never would eat pine nuts, and he still will not. If it's a pine nut that's already out of the shell, like it's a shelled pine nut like you would buy normally, he will not eat it. He'll just drop it. He won't even pick it up most
Trash
of the time.
on the ground.
But when it's in shell pine nuts, he loves them. He shells it himself, and that's essentially his second favorite treat now.
Does he have certain things he just hates that he's just like, and not just like food, but like certain like things around him that he's like absolutely not?
Yeah, that'll happen fairly frequently. There's a large like straw sun hat that I have. That's hated that
awful.
The whole time we've had it.
Hate that. That's cursed and haunted.
There's been a lot of random things. Like the full leaf blowers where it has the engine and everything on the back, he hates those. Like, he's terrified of those.
Gotta say, I'm on his side. As someone who regularly needs to record audio in a room with a window that faces the street, I have to say I'm on Apollo's team on this one. I am also a leaf blower hater.
Yeah, there's this is common to the species and also is reinforces that like using human speech is very unintuitive for them. Like any electronic beeps, chimes, various, like he'll learn those so like it'll be pitch perfect matches. Like you couldn't differentiate them with a spectrometer, like looking at the audio waves and all that. With beeps and chimes, it's just like instant, because that is just like their natural register of like noises, kind of. Because if you listen, there's a couple videos, there's not many, but of wild African gray flocks. And it sounds like a Star Wars laser battle, basically. Like it's all very high pitch, back and forth. It's very interesting to hear. The higher pitches like that and electronic noises, a smoke alarm, like they can hear a smoke alarm like once and they'll perfect it in a couple days.
Saved to long-term memory immediately.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, is that's a lot closer to the noises they naturally make.
Which I think speaks a lot to their adaptability, that they're, even though they have like a certain register of sounds that are typical for them, that they're still able to access sounds so far outside of that range, and they're still able to like make this. And
the desire to do it is interesting when you really strip it down. It's like they want to communicate, they want to understand their peers and their social group so much that they will cross that barrier and use human sounds. Like I'm sure with the chimp language experiments, that's where they originally started, because they didn't know chimps couldn't learn to make the sound. So they try that and they learn like, oh, they just can't, like they cannot anatomically do human speech or even remotely close. It's just not possible physically, no matter what's going on up there. And then they transition to the various sign language paths and the nonverbal paths. Kanzi had immense success with like lexicograms and like things representing things, but it was like the vocabulary was insane that they developed over time. Something that's getting really popular is the buttons, with like dogs and cats.
The talking buttons.
Yeah. Also, tablets with parrots have been effective, but there is a fundamental barrier. And this isn't like, those are very interesting, useful things like to pursue, but there's a fundamental barrier, whether it be sign language, the buttons, or the tablet, between verbal discourse, both from the human side and from the animal side. It's unintuitive, like it's 1 degree removed for what you normally do. So like using the sounds for the parrots is unintuitive, like the actual making the actual same noises as humans, but the actual communication, that's not unintuitive. That's kind of what they're designed to do. So I think like that's why they're just so perfect, is because we can, like, there's just no other species that can meet us that close.
Are there any ways that you have to, I'm thinking of like, having little kids in the house, there are certain things you have to avoid doing so that they don't get saved into long-term storage and like copied at infinitum.
Like words.
Like you have to kind of watch your language, or you have to like if there's things you have to avoid so that they don't get like picked up by the bird. Have you had to do anything like that?
We've tried to watch our language, and we've more or less been good about that, but nothing too extreme.
Because with a little kid, you at least have the option of being like, hey, don't repeat this, or like, don't say that at school. Whereas with a bird, they're like, it's coming out, sorry.
Yeah. And there's a degree of separation that's significant where, a young child seeing a behavior or something from you is a lot more like just intuitively understandable than it is for a parrot. And a dog even is like, might be closer to the child than the parrot in some sense on that, just because like, another mammal is far closer to us than any bird is to us.
Does Apollo at all respond? Because I was thinking about dogs and the quirky things that dogs do around people sometimes. Does Apollo respond at all to screens? Like, can Apollo like watch TV or something?
Oh, yeah.
Does he like understand what's going on a screen?
Yes, to a lot of degrees. The research that came out with parrots and the tablets is actually answers this question better than I can with anecdotes about Apollo, sort of. Although I will say Soleil, when she sees birds on the screen, she'll attack the phone. And there's all sorts of like shorts you'll see of like birds scrolling TikTok, and they'll like stop. They'll stop when they see another bird.
That's funny.
Someone commented they found e-girls. Oh no.
Oh no, your algorithm is wrecked.
But they'll just keep scrolling until they find a bird. With the tablets, what's very fascinating is it's video calls with among other things, but this specific thing I'm referencing is video calls with other parrots, so like FaceTiming on a bird-proofed iPad with another parrot.
As a concept, already, this is hilarious. This is extremely funny to me.
Yeah, and also with the owners. So like Ellie and my parrot kindergarten is a common, she's one of the people leading the charge on the tablet things, if not the leading person. She calls her bird and she'll like have to go for a conference or something, and she'll like call her bird on video from wherever in the world, far away from home. And it's very clear, like the bird knows who that is. Like it knows it's talking to Jen. But the interesting thing is they also understand that it's like other parrots. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it's like these are parrots they've never met before physically. They've only met them through like the video call on the computer, and they'll like have contacts and they'll be able to pick who they call.
Oh my gosh.
And they'll show like memory, like notable memory of like socially categorizing that bird is like a name, or remembering it somehow, whether it's a name or not. And they'll have preferences that they'll show. Like they don't like to talk to this bird, but these birds always like to talk to each other.
That's
so
a long distance relationship.
So they definitely, to a very notable degree that we don't understand at the moment, can also comprehend things on screens and such.
I know that group chat is going crazy.
Yeah, they all call each other.
That Discord server is so messy. I know there's drama every day.
There's an article on that. I don't know if it's National Geographic or the Smithsonian or something, but that's a very interesting study.
Oh my gosh, how delightful. I had never heard of that, and that is probably the best thing I've ever heard. Just imagining you're on your phone and then a little window pops up that's like you're receiving a video call, a FaceTime request from Apollo.
Yeah, well, we might set that up for him eventually, but we don't really ever leave.
I mean, he's just a kid. He's not old enough yet. Okay, you got to be 13. Apollo, you're only what? He's only 6 years old now? Sorry, bud, you're not old enough yet.
The internet does get pretty crazy out there.
Show him some Cocomelon. Get him on Bluey. Have him watch Bluey. He'll love it. Well, if you, dear listener, want to have a parrot on your screen, Dalton, where can people go to find more from you and Apollo and Friends?
Apollo and Friends on all the major platforms. If you just type in Apollo Bird, you'll probably find us into any major search engine.
He's the one.
But yeah, Apollo and Friends.
And honestly, if your algorithm is built anything like mine, just like scroll for a few minutes. He'll find you. Can I say my kids obsessed with Apollo, like to the point that like if I'm scrolling and they hear your voice, or if they hear Apollo's voice doing any of his little vocal stems that he does, my kids are immediately, they're on me like sharks. They're like, show us the video. And like little things that Apollo says, you know, because he has certain like you mentioned, like he says things kind of the same way every time. Once he's like learned it, it's like he says it very consistently. So there are certain things that he says that have become just like common parlance in our house, where like if there's like any sort of small creature on the ground, it's a bug. We say that at least 30 times a week in our house.
Yeah, that's one of Apollo's favorites.
It's one of our favorites too. I gotta say, we're big fans of it. Oh, Schrock, everything in our house. It's every day. Every day we're talking about Schrock.
Yeah, Schrock was that was a special sequence of events.
Now, was that like a bespoke sort of like a custom Apolloism?
Yes, but not in the way that most people think. Like we taught him Shrek and Wario very early on, just because it's funny, iconic, etc. And we wanted to get phonemes down. And he also was learning rock at the same time. I think he might have even been learning sock at the same time too. So it was just like one morning, there were a couple random times, but one of the times I remember recording and posting, and he was very young during this. This is like probably before he was even 2. He just said Schrock.
And you're like, that's it?
On accident, because Shrek, rock, and sock are all like, he's trying to be able to differentiate between those. And we laughed, and he said it on accident a couple more times, and we laughed. And then it just, obviously we weren't going to keep Schrock around, so we just let it just disappeared as he got better. And then the Shrek Croc, released, and we were like, oh.
Bring that one back.
We'll just bring that back and tie it to the literal object. And
triple platinum in our house.
so Apollo did accidentally He did accidentally that word originally, and then we brought it back.
He predicted the Shrek croc, I think. That was actually a prediction. He saw into the future. He knew it was coming.
That could be. He is named Apollo.
Does he do that a lot? Does he like come up with his own sort of like mishmashes of words together? I know, I'm sorry, I did the outro already and I'm like still going.
He does unintentionally all the time. He'll hit in-betweens and mishmashes and moving phonemes around, intentionally like combining two words for a new thing he hasn't done. But I don't think there's been necessarily any situations where that would occur. That's something when he's older we might try and see if we can design some sort of setup or methodology, I guess you could say, to see if we can elicit that.
Yeah, like show him something he's never seen before and ask him what it is.
He hasn't done a binary like Alex did back in the day.
Yeah, that was one thing that like blew my mind. I still like tell people about it. Like the concept of like, I have things this is similar to. It's almost like there's a concept of it in linguistics. I think it's called circumlocution, where like you don't know a word for a thing, so you just kind of like talk around it. Like it's common in like people who are like learning a new language.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
My French teacher would tell us about like if someone didn't know the word for squirrel, they might say it's a mouse that lives in a tree.
That makes sense, like charades or like Pictionary kind of.
Like taboo.
Like linguistic Pictionary.
Yeah. All right, Dalton. I promise that was the last. I know I was I was like, I did the outro and then I was like, wait, I have more questions.
We can probably get Apollo to say bye if you want.
Oh my God. If he's around and available, a celebrity appearance would be fantastic.
All right, we're back.
Hi, beautiful boy.
I thought you wanted the mic so bad. Oh, well.
He's just gorgeous. Hi, sweetie pie.
Yeah, he's going to come for the
mic.
Oh,
if he does, I will be so excited. I'm totally bought into the like Parrot video call thing now because I'm having a video call with a parrot at this moment. I got to say it's great. I think they're all right. They're all correct.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know, you got the video feed and the audio. It makes sense to understand.
I will have links to every where you can find Apollo and Friends online in the episode description. So if anyone wants to go check those videos out, just scroll down and click through. Dalton and Apollo, thank you both so much for being here. Thank you for your time and your love for animals and the work that you're doing. I mean, this is such a huge project and like such a huge undertaking, and I'm so thankful to you for doing it.
Well, we appreciate that. Luckily, we don't have it as hard as Dr. Pepperberg. We just have to prove she wasn't crazy.
Thank you so much, Dalton and Apollo. It was lovely to have you, and we will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. What a good boy he is. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this episode has earned us a pistache. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you left behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. If you want to come hang out with us online, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can also send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you'd like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside their other amazing shows like the ones you heard promos for here today. You can go check those out and learn more about the network and how you can be a part of supporting our show, plus get access to our exclusive monthly bonus episodes over at MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.